And now, live from beautiful and exciting Las Vegas, one of the most influential talk show hosts in America, radio icon Alan Stock.
Anna, good morning. Great to have you with us on this Wednesday morning. I am thrilled that we're able to do this morning. And I also want to say this whole forum is sponsored by King Solomon's Treasures, 3655 South Durango, a jewelry store with a touch of class. And I appreciate the fact that they have chosen to go ahead and support this Interfaith forum on Islamic extremism. We have some very well-known people with us this morning. We have Pastor Josh Tice, Senior Pastor of the Southern Hills Baptist Church. We have Rabbi Yitz Wein from Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas. He also does a show here on Sundays at 9 o'clock. Dr. Aslam Abdullah, the director of the Islamic Society of Nevada. Teji Malik, a spokesperson of the Sikh community in Las Vegas. I'll get them all right by the end of the show. And also Elliot Karp, president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Las Vegas, who actually came to me and said, you know, with what's going on now with the beheadings and the killings of not only Christians and the beheadings and the Jews, but also of Muslims who disagree with their brand of Islam, you know, this is the time to be able to get a forum like this together. So to all of you, thank you very, very much for being here on this Wednesday morning.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
I want to start out with you, first of all, Dr. Abdullah, and I want to find out at the get-go, is it fair to refer to the Islamic extremists as jihadists? That's what they call themselves. Is it fair to use that phrase?
I mean, I would not grace them with this terminology, Islamic extremists or even jihadists. They are criminals. They are the ones who have no respect for human life. They are the ones who have basically lost their morality and their sense of directions. So I think to use the terms such as Islamic extremism and jihadism is basically a misnomer, and it does not help us to make a correct analysis of what is happening in that part of the world.
Let me give you
and
two.
that is what the problem with most of the people is, that they try to basically jump on that bandwagon of these terminologies to denounce the Muslim community as a whole, because this is what is basically what we notice. I mean, that in general they put fingers at the Muslim community and Islam as a whole, rather than focusing on criminals. Because extremism is a problem of all religions, not just...
But we don't, you know, right, and I don't want to slime all of Islam with these particular criminals, as you call them. Let me say two things, though. One is that they identify themselves as the Islamic State or ISIS or ISIL or whatever other acronym that we use. I mean, they call that themselves. And the other thing is that it's been highly regarded that we must be able to identify an enemy, like who they are, and call them whatever they are and whoever they are in order to defeat them. You would look to Germany in World War II. You wouldn't have said, you know, those people who are kind of have a Nordic background or something like that.
I mean, no matter what, they can say whatever they want to say about themselves. It is up to us and intelligent people to make an analysis of what they're doing. And what they're doing is criminal. What they're doing is anti-human and against all religions of the world. And we, as a group, one should take a position on that. That we have not taken, unfortunately, because we keep on pointing fingers at each other rather than coming together to tackle that particular issue. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is that if we really want to make a true analysis of that kind of thing, we have to understand what is happening in that region and who are the ones who are suffering the most. And it is the Muslim community that has been the extreme suffering of all that is happening in that part.
That's exactly why I had you here today, because the Muslims have suffered. We know Jews have certainly suffered. We know we have seen, unfortunately, the beheadings of
Christians,
not only
yes.
of Christians as well. And so everyone is suffering now at these, I call them fascists myself. It's a new form of fascism. I want to know real quickly if you all agree or disagree with this. Real quick statement, and that is, do you agree with the King of Jordan, who said after he left here, when his pilot was burned alive for the world to see, he told the world that we have now already entered World War III. Pastor Tice?
Do I agree with the statement that we're in World War III? I definitely agree with the statement that they're at war with us, whether or not we've realized or woken up to the fact that we need to be at war with them.
Teji Malik.
Yeah, this is not a specific thing who is with war with who, because the problem is there are 3,000 Muslim people who are serving in our armed forces. Are they less American than you and me? I don't think so. So I don't think it's us against them. I don't belong to Abrahamic religion. I'm the outsider here. So Abrahamic religions, three of them, they have one umbilical cord. So, the idea is just the same. So some are, you don't know, but I'll let you know, in Afghanistan, Sikhs had been there for 300 years. They've been beheaded by the same extremists. And nobody knows about it because it doesn't come out. And they've been there for 300 years.
Rabbi Yitzwine, are we in World War III?
100%. The greatest threat to humanity today is from a group of people that identify themselves, call themselves as Islamic extremists, and they are, for sure, they have an open stated goal, and it's reflected by their actions, that they want to destroy anyone that does not believe as they do. So, for sure. I guess my question, though, is that, and I understand what the doctor is saying, that if someone were to come and say, hey, I'm a Jews for Jesus, and I would turn straight to them and say, you can call yourself whatever you want, but what you're practicing is not Judaism. So in other words, I understand your perspective in that regard, but then what do you do about it? Here you have a group of people that are extremely violent and in the name of Allah are wreaking havoc upon whoever crosses their path.
So what you do is that you bring together people who are from different religious traditions and develop a coalition against those kind of criminals. Rather than pointing fingers at one particular religion or the other, come together, hold each other's hand. And that is not what is happening. What basically is happening is that those groups are being used as a punching bag for Islam.
All right, and that is the problem that I see. And we don't want to do that. We're going to come back in a moment and continue, and we'll hear from Elliot Karp in a moment as well. If you want to join in, 257-536 and 702-257-KDWN, but I've got to warn you, I've got a ton of questions myself, and we have a lot to discuss this morning as we continue our Interfaith show on prejudice. 6:20 at News Talk 720 KDWN. I'm Alan Stock. I want to thank you for joining us as we present this Interfaith Forum on Prejudice, sponsored by King Solomon's Mines at 3655 South Durango. I have with me in studio Pastor Josh Tice, Senior Pastor of Southern Hills Baptist Church. I got it right the first time, is that it?
You got it.
I'm working on it. Rabbi Yitzwine, Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas, Dr. Aslam Abdullah, Director of the Islamic Society of Nevada, Teji Malik, I got it right that time, too. A spokesperson for the Sikh community. And joining me also, Elliot Karp, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Las Vegas. The question I asked before we went to traffic was whether or not we are in World War III or not. Elliot?
Well, I definitely think that this is a global war on terror. I would agree with what Dr. Said in terms of labels, that we have to call out people who are terrorists and who are criminals, and as the rabbi and as my other friends have indicated, that these are inhuman acts. These are violent acts directed against people simply because of hatred, bigotry, prejudice, and this is going to be divisive and divisive to our communities, and this is a global war. And I think that Dr. Abdullah made a very important comment, and even before I get to that, Alan, thank you for having this conversation, because I think if we're going to change the world, it's going to start precisely because of conversations like this, and that future conversations that will take place off the air. But why isn't the Muslim community as bold and as brave as you are in calling this out? Why aren't we hearing more voices like yours in terms of saying what you've said, the same way that we call out in the Jewish faith, in the Jewish community, injustice and prejudice, not only directed against ourselves, but when our brothers and sisters in the Christian community are murdered, and when a Sikh temple is attacked and people are killed and murdered there. We're looking for those voices, and I applaud you for it. I really do. But what can we do? Because I think even before we have this interfaith conversation amongst ourselves, that conversation needs to take place within your community.
I mean,
Doctor.
Since 9/11, if I recall correctly, we have at least 6,000 conferences all over the country denouncing terrorism and taking a position on that very clearly. Recently, we had at least 5 major international conferences that took place in Riyadh, Jeddah, and then in Turkey and in India, as well as in Pakistan, denouncing those. The Muslims have been speaking about it. But the point that we need, it's not just a Muslim problem. And I think to say that the Muslims alone would be able to handle this problem would never solve the problem. All of us have to come in. It's a question of humanity. It is not a question of Islam versus others. It is a question of a bunch of criminals who are bent to destroy the peace of the world, Muslims included, as the victims of their thing. And we have to come together.
I think the reason...
If we keep on pointing fingers that why Muslims are not doing this kind of thing, why others... we would never be able to solve the problem.
The reason I think that Elliot also is bringing this up is because there are about, I don't know the exact number, but I think about 1.3 to 1.7
6 billion Muslims.
billion Muslims in this.
I don't speak for all of them.
No, I know you don't. I don't speak for all talk show hosts either, by the way. But I can tell you that about they estimate 100 million of the billions, 100 million Muslims are very sympathetic with ISIS or the caliphate. So we are talking about a sizable portion of people, regardless of whatever we call them, that are in their own feelings either directly at war with us or not directly involved, but in sympathy with those who are at war with us.
Yes, I mean, that is one of the challenges that we have. Definitely. I mean, there are people who are misusing the religion. There are people who are basically distorting the facts and all those kind of things. And it is the responsibility of the Muslims and the clergy and the intellectuals to directly handle that kind of problems. And certainly the Muslims have been trying to do, especially Muslim Americans, I mean, they have been speaking about it. And I would invite each one of you to come to our mosques and listen to the sermons that we give on Friday, that how much strong positions we have taken on this issue of terrorism, on this issue of violence, because we believe we do not put a tag of Islam, Christianity, of Judaism on human life. Every human life is sacred.
Yeah,
we must respect.
I believe you because I'll tell you why I believe. I saw you on the O'Reilly show where you were very, very, very fierce about your positions on this. You have personally, as Elliot pointed out, you have definitely spoken out on this, and I hope your influence is wide and varied. I want to know whether or not you gentlemen find your congregants to be concerned about the issues connected with what's happening in the Middle East. Are they more concerned about their daily lives than what's really happening in Iraq or Afghanistan or Israel or Iran? Pastor Tice?
I think one of the Christian responsibilities is to wake up to what is actually happening in the world. Watch the news. Get involved in political office. Actually listen to programs like this. But a lot of times within the Christian community, because we are a large majority in a lot of cases, is that we're so wrapped up with the day-to-day lives of what we've got going on. And so they have to get back into their faith. They have to get back into their church, back into their Bible, back into following what Christ is and who Christ was. In doing so, they would be awoken not only to the world's problems, but they would be awakened to what they are supposed to be doing in their community. But I do believe that's a major problem, yes.
Let me also direct this to Teji Malik, and I don't know whether you have congregations or what. I said congregants, so I don't know how to phrase that, but you...
Yeah, we have temples. We have two temples here. See, our sort of whatever you call religion, which I don't call it like that, we are not worried about these things because we are also the victims of ignorance here. After 9/11, the first person to die, to be murdered by a Christian, was a Sikh from Arizona, a friend of mine. And the funny thing is, the K-Dawn, at that time, on 9/11, I had bought the flags, the ribbons with the tricolor flags. I have gas stations, so I was giving to the customers. So somebody, I don't remember who the person is, he said he had come to my gas station. I was there, giving ribbons to everybody, and he on his station when his time came, said, "Well, there's a guy with a turban, and on 9/11 on Boulder Highway, giving my sort of address, And so that is so stupid. I didn't know about that. Your listeners, okay, I'm libertarian. Your conservative listeners, my customers called me, this is what happened. So I had to call your station manager to do this. So ignorance is very dangerous when you have a bully pulpit. But we don't worry about all these things. I don't know whether you remember, about 3 months ago, there was a container of people from Afghanistan, 6, who came to England to get out of this criminal things there, because they've been there very rich for 300-400 years. And one had passed away in the container, and then they were rescued by the Sikh communities. So this is happening. People don't know what Sikhs have gone through since the inception 500 years ago.
There are people who look at Sikhs and they say they think you're a Muslim. They misinterpret that you're a Muslim. Is that correct?
Muslim. They call diaper head, rag head, and things like that. I fired my employee, and he told me a diaper head. For me, see, these things don't bother me. I was raised in England and everything, so I've been through all
You
this.
still have the accent, too, so I like it very much. We are here talking about this is an interfaith forum on it's Islamic extremism, and that's how I'm going to define it. And we're going to come on back and talk about it with Pastor Josh Tice, Rabbi Yitzwine, Dr. Aslam Abdullah, Teji Malik, and Elliot Karp, and you as well. All that and more coming up after news, traffic, and weather on News Talk 720, KDWN. 6:39 at News Talk 720 KDWN. I'm Alan Stockton. I want to thank you so much for joining us on this interfaith forum that we've put together to deal with the issue of the extremism in this world. We call it Islamic extremism. We're going to talk about that and much more as we speak with Pastor Josh Tice, Senior Pastor of the Southern Hills Baptist Church, Rabbi Yitzwine, Young Israel Asia of Las Vegas, Dr. Aslam Abdullah, Director of the Islamic Society of Nevada, and Teji Malik, the spokesperson of the Sikh community, and joining me also Elliot Karp, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Las Vegas. I appreciate you all being here. Let me open it up this way, because this is a kind of a segue of a conversation we were having during traffic and everything. What conversations do you have with your congregants about the so-called caliphate crazies, ISIS, the Islamic State, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, etc.? Do you and your congregants see this as being an Islamic situation? Or is there really a differentiation between mainstream Islam and those self-professed warriors? Rabbi?
Thank you. You know, the main thing is that people should know what is going on, and they should understand what their Jewish responsibility is. And when I say Jewish, it's in this case, you're not going to distinguish between your Jewish responsibility and your human responsibility, which is to bring a sense of morality and godliness into the world. Where it becomes a real issue, I think we're all going to sit together and agree we should be kind to each other, love your neighbor as yourself, and those basic universal values. I think where it gets a little more difficult is when the and for now we'll call him an Islamic extremist, when he's standing up and he's saying, listen, I'm right, I'm doing what God wants me to do. And I think that this is, we were talking about this before with Dr. Abdullah, is that this group of people that constitutes 8% of the Muslim world is standing up and they're saying, hey, listen, we are doing God's will by blowing other people up and by beheading them. And that's their claim. Now, we're not going to find 8% of the Christians doing such a thing. We're not going to find 8% of the Jews doing this in the name of their religions. And so that's where it becomes a difficult situation. In-house, no problem. We can all stand up, say we all have a personal responsibility to bring goodness into the world and to be kind. But it's when you step out of the synagogues and basically out of the churches, and now you're in a forum where people are doing it in the name of their God. So
let me go to Pastor Tice next and ask you, I mean, the conversations you're having with your congregants, do they see this as being an Islamic situation, or is there a differentiation between mainstream Islam and these self-professed caliphate crazies?
The first thing that we do is we need to wake up Christians to the truth about Christian martyrdom, the historic truth about what we have suffered throughout history, since the time of Christ, through his disciples, through the early church, and throughout history. Those who have martyred Christians just in the name of Christ. So that's something that around this table we all share. For our faith, people who have been martyred. So we wake them up to that realization. You say, why do you begin there? Here's why. Because in American Christianity, we are so coddled, and we are so falling asleep by this concept of materialism, so much that we focus on all of our personal deeds, and that's what we talked about earlier. Once we do that, we wake them up to the truth about American apathy, our apathetic ways, so that so many Christians are, like I said before, not paying attention to the greater world around them, not truly focusing upon their faith.
But let me go back to the question that you were getting off. That what I want to know is, are we focusing on being able to say, is there a differentiation in your church and in the world that you live in between the Islamic mainstream and between these self-professed crazies, these warriors?
Yeah. Islam itself, from what I understand and from what I've studied, when you study the fundamentals of Islam, when you study the actual scriptures of Islam, there's great violence. We mentioned Franklin Graham a moment ago. Franklin Graham was recently quoted on Fox News, and he went on there and talked about the essential violence of the Islamic religion. So that began to prompt my own study, which Christians should do. I began to read the Quran. I began to study it out. I began to look up passages. And you do see so many passages that lead in an open-ended way to violence. Not violence within the story of a narrative. This is what happened between this group and this group, but direct revelation from Allah to the followers to do violence, strike at the neck, bring terror, cut off their heads. So this Islamic State, they're getting these ideas from somewhere. And the question is, where are they getting these ideas from? That would be the Quran.
All right, I know we're going to go to traffic, and I know you, Doctor, really want to respond to both the rabbi and the pastor, so we're going to have you respond after we check in with traffic. And for that, let's head on over to Mitch Kelly in the KDON One Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center. 648 News Talk 720 KDWN. I'm Alan Stock. I want to thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday morning. We are in the middle of an interfaith forum looking at Islamic extremism and terrorism in general. I have Pastor Josh Tice, Senior Pastor of the Southern Hills Baptist Church, Rabbi Yitz Wine from Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas, Dr. Aslam Abdullah, Director of the Islamic Society of Nevada, Teji Malik, the spokesperson for the Sikh community, and Elliot Karp, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Las Vegas, all here at the KDON studios joining me. And the rabbi responded to the issue about what conversations do you have with your congregants about these caliphate crazies? Do you differentiate between Islamic mainstream and these particular self-professed warriors? And the pastor also gave us your position on that. And I want to turn this also to Dr. Aslam Abdullah. I know you wanted to respond to this. I want to just preface it by saying that what is being said also, and I think one of the things the pastor referred to, and I want to expand just a quick question on this, and that is that he wants to, why are the mainstream Muslims not as much speaking out as much on something like this and identifying it as being having come from Islam? There was a man by the name of Goldstein, a Jewish man from New York, who went to Israel some years back, and he went to a very holy site, and he murdered about 27 Muslims. He shot them all down, and the Muslims turned on him, and they beat him to death at that site. The Jews that I always talked to identified and said, yes, he was a Jewish guy who thought he was doing Jewish stuff, and he did a horrible thing by killing these Muslims, and the fact that they turned and killed him, that's justice, and that's the way it was. And that's how I looked at it also, I'll be honest with you. So, I mean, the question is, we have to recognize who we are fighting in order to be able to identify it, in order to be able to actually conquer those people. Sir?
I think there are two issues mentioned. One is about the nature of Islam, that Quran is promoting violence. That is not what my reading is. And that is not what the reading of 98% of the Muslims in the world is, who have been living peacefully in coexistence with many communities all over the world. In fact, this is what our faith believes, that every human life is sacred. And people have a right to practice their religion the way they want to practice. And there is no coercion, there is no compulsion, there is no violence. There are people who have always used religion for their own political and nefarious and the cultural and tribal perspectives. And it is the responsibility of Muslims to challenge them and to tackle them. And that is precisely what is happening. You know, in the last 15 years, 1.5 million Muslims have been killed in the Middle East by these crazies. And it is not others but the Muslims who are suffering at the hand. That's coming back to the issue that the rabbi raised about the 8%. I don't think we should measure the human value or the life of human value in terms of percentage, because if we look at that kind of thing, what essentially we are saying that since you killed more and I killed less, I am better than you. While we are talking about these crazes in the Middle East, the same thing is happening in Central African Republic, where more than 15,000 Muslims have been killed in the last 1 year. By whom? By those who profess themselves to be Christians. But we never call it Christian extremism. We never call it Christian terrorism or Christian kind of fundamentalism. We understand there is a tribal war that has been going on in that particular religion. It happens that the people who are attacking those happen to be Christian. It is not promoted by Christianity. So when we start putting all those kind of things, we are unnecessarily complicating the situation.
Let me interrupt real quickly, because in this country, there has been an identification of those people who have been Christian, who have attacked, let's say, abortion doctors and killed them as being Christian extremists. And it has been said in the media. I have said it, and the Christian leaders have said it. Yes, these are Christian extremists who have killed doctors in the name of Christ.
I say it differently. I say they are extremists who happen to claim themselves to be Christians. Because the point is that I do not want to put blames on Christianity and Judaism or Islam or Sikhism and Hinduism for promoting violence, because God is not violent. And that is the essential thing that we have to understand. If there is one God, if there's Jesus who came here to redeem humanity from all that kind of suffering, that Jesus is love, that Moses is love, that Muhammad is love, that Guru Nanak is love. We have to understand that kind of thing. And the moment we start using these kind of terminologies, we are complicating ourselves. So I would invite the pastor to come and understand the way we understand the Quran, because we don't find it a violent book. We find it a book that gives us peace, that helps us respect Jesus, that helps us respect Moses and Abraham and Ishmael and Jacob and Isaac and Guru Nanak and everyone.
All right, hold on a second.
I think that is what we believe.
Rabbi?
Yeah, Doctor, the point is that these people are committing the violence in the name of their God.
Yes.
So once you're saying, in the name of Allah, I am killing, then it becomes a responsibility, quite frankly, not for me, because I'm not a Muslim. It becomes a responsibility not only for you, but for every single Muslim in the world, all 1.6 billion, to stand up and say, this guy is not us. And just by point of what Alan brought up this fellow Goldstein, I just want to make a note of that. That happened about 20 years ago, and it was one guy. And when he gets up and he walked into the place he did and committed the heinous crimes that he did, the entire Jewish world stood up in unison to say, this guy is not us. And these Christians, they didn't do it in the name of Christianity.
But I don't want to go there, but there are people who go to his grave and revere it, and then has turned it into a shrine for the people. So let's not talk about the issues there, because it's complicated. What basically is here is that if they are using the name of God, then it is the responsibility of those who say that they believe in God, Jews, Christians, everyone who believes in God has a moral responsibility to take a position together. Yes, the Muslims are taking that kind of position, and Muslims must take that position. And if they are not taking, that means they are not doing their job properly. They are not adhering to their faith properly. And that is what our challenge is, to ensure that we take a position against all that kind of terrorism.
Hold on one second, because I just want to say, first of all, you're right. There are people who have gone to the grave of Goldstein, and they admire, and there are many people, unfortunately, over the last many years, who have gone to the graves of the final resting place of Islamic extremists, Hamas, Hezbollah, who have killed many Jews. No, let me finish. And they have honored, and they have an annual pilgrimage to these graves to honor them and say they did a wonderful thing. So, yes, there are people who are doing this. I know, Teji Malik, you wanted to add something real quick.
Well, I want to add, as you asked everybody a question, what do you tell to your congregations about all these things? The interesting part about Sikhi, I don't call it ism, I call it a Sikhi, is that we don't talk about it. We pray for everybody when things happen in Paris. We prayed for the victims. When things happen in UNC, we prayed for the victims. And the last verse of a prayer is that everybody's well-being as human is very, very vital for everybody. So we don't discuss this thing is bad. We only discuss positive things because our scripture, there are 31 Hindus, low-caste Hindus who were not allowed even in their temple. Their poetry, Muslim poetry, unfortunately, Jewish people were not there at that part of the region. Although they would be there, Jewish people have been there for many, many centuries. Mine is only 500 years old. So it's a recent history. It's not, can't be oral stories and all that stuff. So we just pray for the victims and wait and hope that other people would understand, get something in the census in their respective religions.
In the last minute or so in this segment, let me just turn to Pastor Josh Tice. I think what Dr. Aslam Abdullah has said, inferred at least, I'm trying to interpret that, is that yes, there are violent parts of the Quran, as there are in all religions in the past. You can find aspects of violence, but he's saying that while that's there, he and his congregants and the mainstream focus on the peaceful end of it, as Jews do the peaceful end of the Torah and Christians the peaceful end of the New Testament, and that those people who are carrying out these crazy acts are the ones who are focusing on the most violent part.
Yeah, I want to say to Dr. Abdul that I actually saw you on Bill O'Reilly, and you very clearly came out against violent extremism from Islam, and
Absolutely.
that was a great moment. And I wish and I hope that more Muslim clerics across the country would do so, would stand up and say, this is not who we are, just as those in the Jewish community do and in the Christian community do when accused of our region.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to head over to news, traffic, and whether we come on back, we're going to focus on something that's very important. And one of the things that reason Elliot and I put this together is, how do your congregants feel about the rising tide of anti-Semitism, about anti-Israeli sentiments, and the obvious question that a lot of people have asked, hey, if Israel didn't exist, would there still be this problem with radical Muslims? We'll come on back in a moment and continue our Interfaith Forum on extremism, Islamic extremism, the caliphate crazies, and much more. I'm Alan Stock, and this is News Talk 720 KDWN. KDON. And a good morning. Great to have you with us on this Wednesday morning as we talk about the issue of Islamic extremism. Our Interfaith Forum today includes Pastor Josh Tice, the senior pastor of the Southern Hills Baptist Church, Rabbi Yitz Wein, Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas, Dr. Aslam Abdullah, director of the Islamic Society of Nevada, Teji Malik, a spokesperson of the Sikh community, and Elliot Carr, president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Las Vegas. I'm going to pick up this segment exactly where we left off the air, talking about it, because this is the direction we're going to go in. And the direction is this. How do your congregants feel about the rising tide of anti-Semitism, anti-Israeli sentiment? I wanted to talk about that in general, but I want to speak specifically about what's going on campuses today. You look at UC Davis and UC Irvine as two examples in California, where you have Muslim student organizations that have become, first starting out with being anti-Israel. Okay, you can have a civilized discussion on that if you'd like to have it at some point. But then it turns into Jews and anti-Jews. And now it's not enough just to berate the Jews, but now there have been attacks, physical attacks on Jewish students who wear kippot, who wear a yarmulke on their head, being identified as Jewish. This has gone on at Davis, and it's gone on at Irvine, and it goes on at other universities around the country. Isn't it the responsibility of Muslim leaders like yourself that's enlightened, Dr. Abdullah, and along with a rabbi, let's say, maybe a Jewish minister, a Christian minister and a Jewish rabbi, to go on these campuses to talk to these Muslim students, to have gatherings and say to them, you know what you young people are doing is wrong? Isn't it your responsibility as a leader of a congregation to initiate that?
I think hatred and violence in general is on the rise in this country. What happened in North Carolina, where 3 Muslim students were killed. What happened in New Jersey, where Muslim students were also killed. It's happening. And I think it is the responsibility of the responsible religious leaders to take a position, a strong position, that no matter what and how our differences are, we would never resort to hatred, we would never resort to violence, no matter where we are. We may have differences on the issue of Israel. We may have differences on the issue of theology. We may have differences on any number of issues. But to denigrate anybody else, to humiliate anyone else, to hit anyone else is wrong from a religious perspective and must be stopped, no matter who does it.
I understand. I understand that, but here's the question. It's the bigger question. I'm getting right to it. Elliot said we're not going to skirt it. We're going to get right to it. He's absolutely right. I mean, let's look at it. If, God forbid, it was happening in this community right here at UNLV, which thank God it's not, I would turn to you and I'd turn to Rabbi Wein and I would turn to Pastor Tice and I would say, would the 3 of you go on to UNLV campus today? And would you sit down with the Muslim students who are attacking Jews there, if that was the case? And would you talk to them and tell them this is the wrong behavior? You've got to become more civilized. Now, you might do it here, but I'm saying that this has got to be done all over the country.
I think we don't have to wait for an incident to take that kind of initiative. We have to go, regardless, as Christians, Jews, and Muslims together to those campuses, to those people, and say that have your differences, but have a civil discussion. Respect the human life, respect the human dignity, respect the Jewish and the Christian and the Muslim faith, and then do not use violence to air their differences. And I think that is the collective responsibility of all of us.
Okay, I wanted to go with that. All right, I think it is too. And you know what? I'm going to challenge you and the rabbi and the pastor and even Teji Malik to do that and be proactive. Thank God we don't have that problem at UNLV. We can't do anything here from my studio.
Have a forum. And we'll join there.
All right. Well, you know what? We will put one together for
tomorrow night. Actually, at UNLV, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there with another organization for a night to honor Israel. Right there, we're going to be talking about this problem of anti-Semitism that's beginning to go from campus to campus.
I think it's great. What I want to do is I would like to specifically get a forum together on UNLV, specifically invite the Muslim students, the Jewish students, the Christian students to come on out and have the 3 of you there to talk to them, to say to them, these young people who are the leaders of tomorrow, what you're saying on this show today. Elliot?
And I think that's wonderful, that would be something that would be welcomed not only by the students and by the community, but by the university. I can tell you that within the Jewish community, we're not waiting for that eventuality. We have reached out to other faith groups on campus through our Hillel Jewish Student Center, where we have done programming and awareness about Jews, Judaism, Israel. Every year for the last 4 years, we have sponsored a Freedom Seder around the holiday of Passover, which for the Jews is about freedom and liberation, but we also have tied in other faiths and traditions in terms of their concepts of freedom. So I think that here's the key, is that if we are proactive and not reactive, if we take the stance that there are differences of opinion, but that differences of opinion have legitimate opinions that can be expressed civilly with respect, not out of violence or prejudice or superiority, and that we have to continue to have these conversations and not to be uncivil with one another, not to be, as I like to say, you can disagree, you can never become disagreeable with one another.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually put one of those together because, thank God, we have not had that problem in this community. We're going to make sure that we do not have it. And the other communities like Davis and Irvine and elsewhere have got to be able to maybe take a lead from what we're going to do here and maybe do it in their communities where they are having these problems. And perhaps it will have a positive impact across the board. We're going to continue in a moment on our Interfaith Forum on Islamic extremism, on the terror that's impacting all religions, actually, the Muslim, Christian, and Jewish religions, and more, and Sikh, of course, absolutely. Everyone has been impacted by this. And we'll come on back in just a moment. First thing I want to do is check in with Mitch Kelly, though, in the KDON, One Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center. 720 at News Talk 720 KDWN. I'm Alan Stock. Thank you so much for joining us on our Interfaith Forum on Islamic Extremism. Joining me here in the studio, the KDON studios, Pastor Josh Tice. He is senior pastor of the Southern Hills Baptist Church. Rabbi Yitz Wein, Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas. Dr. Aslam Abdullah, director of the Islamic Society of Nevada. Teji Malik, the spokesperson for the Sikh community here in Las Vegas. Elliot Carr, president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Las Vegas. And both Dr. Aslam Abdullah and Teji Malik, both board members of the Interfaith Council of Southern Nevada, and I appreciate all of you being here. And I'm going to go back real quickly. I'm going to go across the board, but I really want to quickly ask you this, and we'll start it with you, Dr. Abdullah. How do your congregants personally feel about the rising tide of anti-Semitism, anti-Israeli sentiment, and everything else that's going on? How are they relating to it?
As I said, that we do not put a tag on human sufferings on the basis of their religion. Any act of violence, any act of hatred against anyone, whether it's Christians, it's Sikh, it's Jews, it is atheist, is wrong and must be fought against. And that is what our position is. That is what our position is, that we would not allow and we would not stand with those people who violate human dignity.
When it happens that a situation occurs where you have these Islamic extremists go into a synagogue.
Don't use these terms Islamic extremists because they are offensive to Muslims. They are extremists who may have a Muslim name. Because what is happening is that you are playing to their hands. You are promoting their cause. You are promoting their cause. You are not helping us. You are promoting their cause by calling them Islamic. They are not Islamic.
These extremists who are definitely committed to what they call Islam.
Let them say whatever they want to say.
When they go into a synagogue in West Jerusalem, and as people are finishing up a morning prayer, these people are slaughtered. And
the same thing is happening with the Palestinians. Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
No, wait a second. Let me finish my question. Please, wait. When these people who identify themselves as Islamic extremists, they identify themselves that way, go into a synagogue in Western Jerusalem, and while Jews are praying, they slaughter them. And while people go into people who identify themselves as being Islamic extremists, caliphate crazies, whatever, they go into a bakery in France, and they start saying to people, literally, he says to somebody, "Are you Jewish?" "Yes." Bam! And he shoots them and kills them. They have video of this all, by the way. I'm not making any of this up. When this happens, what I'm asking you is, how is these particular acts, how are they identified in the mosque?
Exactly the same way as it would be identified anywhere else, extremism, and the people will take a position. The idea that the Muslims would not say anything against this is a ridiculous idea.
No, that's what I'm asking.
That's a ridiculous idea. To think that any human being who believes in God would condone these kind of acts is nonsense. And I think that is what needs to be understood.
I don't think for a moment, by the way, that you condone. I would never even suggest I know who you are. I'm not asking about the condoning. I'm asking about the condemnation.
Yes, my congregation stands behind me in those things. My congregation is the one that tells me that it is wrong to humiliate other human beings. It is wrong to perpetuate an act of violence against anybody, regardless. And that is the position that we would take. And that is the position that we have to. But I think let's not go into the Middle Eastern area at this particular time because we're not discussing that.
Talking about. Listen, I brought up Western Jerusalem. I brought up France. And my point is this. My point is that when Jews are being singled out, and being killed for being Jewish, being run over by automobiles. And let me finish. Being run over by automobiles in Israel and elsewhere in the world, and strictly because they're Jews, this is an act directed at people because of their particular religion. The same way if somebody would single out Muslim students and kill them, you single that out and say, "My gosh, they're killing Muslim students," and they're focusing on that. So yes, I am focusing on this right now because this is a huge issue. Did you want to put something in it real quick?
No, I believe that Dr. Abdullah is genuine in that what he preaches and teaches inside his the mosque and inside the Muslim community. My concern is, are many others also following that lead? Not in our country, although there is an issue here in the United States of America. But obviously the issue comes out, what's happening in the rest of the world?
You see, I do not control the Muslim world. I do not represent 1.6 billion Muslims. I do not speak the languages of those people. I am responsible for my congregation. I am responsible for my faith and the position that I take. I write about it. I speak about it. And not only I as an individual, but I would say 99.9% Muslim Americans have this position that I have. And I, basically, if what is happening in different parts of the world is not in my control. And I think it is the collective responsibility of all of us to stand and take a position against violence as such, whether it's a violence against Muslims, against Sikhs, against Christians, against Jews. The moment we show this kind of humanity to each other, we would be able to overcome that kind of problem.
I understand that. Real quick.
And I understand the limitations that we all have relative to where we live and our communities and our nations. But, when acts of evil and terror take place, if spiritual leaders are not going to speak out, when Christian Coptics were murdered by ISIS, the Jewish community went to the Archdiocese here in Las Vegas, and we spoke out, and we said, we as your Jewish brothers and sisters feel your pain and stand in solidarity together with you. So I challenge you. I understand the challenge. By the way, this is not a challenge to you personally, because you have made your claims here this morning. You've been on public television where you've made your claims. I accept that that's what you're saying. But I'm challenging you that precisely for the reason why you say you can't do it is exactly the reason why you must do it in talking in other communities around the world. You have to take what you believe in here in the United States of America and take it to other parts of the world. And if there are those 99.9% of Muslim Americans that believe that, like you do, then
I think that's what has been happening. 1.5 million Muslims have been killed. In Pakistan, every day there is someone that is being killed by those kind of extremists. For what? For speaking up. Who was the one who spoke against the Taliban? Malala, a Muslim girl. So Muslims have been speaking. The point is that you are not listening to them. And that is where the problem is. You're not listening. You are still questioning our integrity in terms of denouncing terrorism.
No. Wait.
This is what the underlying assumption is.
Let me stop you, because you have said several times about 1.5 million Muslims being slaughtered, and that is a horrible thing that's happened. It's a big number, and you brought that number up several times. But then we go back to the other number, 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. 100 million is estimated. Listen to me, doctor. 100 million. Big number, very either involved directly or sympathetic with these people who profess to be Islamic extremists themselves. So it's 100 million. So I look at that number and I say that number worldwide, I'm concerned about. That's beyond a country. I mean, that is a nation and a half, two nations, 100 million. A lot of people. Come on back and continue in just a moment. We're going to check in the news, traffic, and weather. Also want to get the same response, by the way, from Pastor Tice about how his congregation also views the rising tide of anti-Semitism, anti-Israeli sentiments. And is it true, as some have suggested, and is it true, as some have suggested, that if Israel did not exist at all, there would be no problem with radical Muslims? That's what some people say. We'll come on back and talk about that and more next on News Talk 720, KDWN, KDAWN. 737 at News Talk 720 KDWN. I'm Alan Stock. Thank you so much for joining us as we talk about the issue of Islamic extremism or extremism by people who identify themselves as Islamic. This is an interfaith forum highlighting Pastor Joseph Tice. He is a senior pastor of the Southern Hills Baptist Church. Rabbi Yitzwein, the rabbi at Young Israel HO Las Vegas. Dr. Aslam Abdullah, director of the Islamic Society of Nevada. Teji Malik, he's a spokesperson of the Sikh community. And Elliot Karp, president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Las Vegas. Real quick, I've got a lot to cover. So, Pastor Tice, I've got to ask you, how do your congregants feel about the rising tide of anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli sentiments?
We're very concerned about it in the Christian community, and especially at Southern Hills Baptist Church. So we've outlined a plan of what we are doing. Several things. We pray globally. That is, we don't just pray for our community and our own hurts. We pray globally that we can stand with the Jewish people and that we can protect them. Work locally. So we do things like Sunday night at our church. We've got a Stand for Israel night, and that's going to be this Sunday night at 6 p.m. And then we love unconditionally. If Christians are going to actually follow Jesus, Jesus was a man who came in peace. He was the person who came with love. And he came for love for all. In fact, it was not just specified by specific individual groups. He came for love for all. And he came, according to the scriptures, with love and sacrificed himself upon the cross to die for the sins of all mankind, not just for the sins of a few. And so in doing so, we have to live up to that love and then spread that love and the truth that Christ offers salvation to all those who would freely receive it by grace through faith.
All right, let me ask a question across the board real quick, and this is a very short answer from everyone because it doesn't require a whole lot of other thoughts. I've had people from callers call and say this to me on the air. I've seen this in print and other people saying this on video, YouTube videos and the like. So I've got to ask you, and we've got to focus. I know, Doctor, you're going, well, we don't want to get into the Middle East thing, but this is what I've heard from people, and that is if Israel did not exist, there would not be this problem with radical Muslims. Real quickly, Pastor Joseph Tice, yes or no?
Absolutely not. No.
If Israel didn't exist, there'd still be a problem.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
There would still be a problem.
There would obviously be a problem, yes.
So it's not the existence of Israel.
The idea of wiping Israel off the map is absolutely inappropriate.
Let me go to right here, Teji Malik.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, it's not about Israel didn't exist or something.
Not you. I'm not talking you.
No.
I'm asking about this is what some people have said. Is that true or not?
No, it's not true at all for me. For my understanding is everybody is a human and everybody has goodness in them. Whatever religions they follow and they breed goodness to share with others, is just fine with me.
All right.
For me, Israel, we had before 534 BC when the tribe went to southern India. Nobody knows about it. I sent Elliot some of the things. I know Jewish Indians personally. I met them in England, in Petticoat Lane. So I love all real things. I have contact. I lived in Brazil for 10 years.
So your answer is if Israel didn't exist, there would still be a problem with these so-called radical Muslims. Dr. Aslam Abdullah, same question, sir.
I think anti-Semitism is not a Muslim problem. It's a Christian problem primarily. It had existed even before the advent of Islam. It continues to exist. Much of the crime that have been committed against Jews are the ones that are committed by those who claim themselves to be the followers of Jesus.
But
so
doctor,
I think
the question I'm asking...
the problem would continue.
Wait.
The problem would continue unless we address that at a different level. And
so even if Israel didn't exist, there would still be a problem with radical Muslims?
It's not the radical Christians, radical Muslims.
Wait, Doctor, the people who cut off those Coptic Christian heads were of in their belief, Muslim faith. So
yes.
I'm asking you the question, sir. I know you're blaming Christians for anti-Semitism or anti-Jewish behavior,
which is a history.
But I'm asking you. You're answering a different question. I want you to answer the question I'm asking. The question I'm asking is: if Israel did not exist at all, if it went away tomorrow, would there still be a problem with these caliphate crazies?
I don't think so. I don't think it has anything to do with the existence of Israel. It has something to do with the politics of that particular region, and I think it has to be looked at, not in terms of the Jewish-Muslim relationship, because the Jewish-Muslim relationship
So there would
has
not.
always
You
been
say
good.
you didn't think so. You don't think there would be these caliphate? If Israel tomorrow was wiped off the map,
Why should it be wiped off?
No, I'm saying.
Well,
to you,
why should it be
well,
wiped off?
I certainly don't think it should be.
And why should we even think of those things?
Well, because there are people who are
stated.
saying this, and I'm trying. Well, what?
Because it's been stated. It's been stated
Yes,
over and over
the
by
crazy-
leaders
cra-
in the,
you know,
in the Arab
I
world.
mean, we also said just two days ago the N-word using against the blacks and saying that they should be wiped off. Does it mean that they would be wiped off? No, they would not be. I mean, so let's be realistic in that.
If
particular
Israel disappeared tomorrow as a nation, it was no longer in existence. The question is, would there still be problem with these caliphate crazies? And you're saying that there still would be caliphate crazies, yes?
thing. Of course, there would be people who would be crazy.
Rabbi?
Israel and the Jewish people have always been the canary in the coal mine for the world. So this is not just a Jewish problem. You have these Muslim extremists. They say they're Muslim. They're extreme. They're violent. They're basing their violence on their understanding of the Quran. And you get rid of Israel, then there's the next target is the Christians. Well, the present target is the Christians as well.
Absolutely.
Well, the Muslims,
Absolutely.
but the Muslims are the ones who have suffered.
And then other
Tremendously.
Muslims.
Yes.
So they go after everybody who's not them. And that's the reality.
All right, we're going to come on back in a moment and ask the big question, bring it all right home. And the big question is, could these problems that are occurring throughout the world, the beheadings and all the other problems, could this occur here on such a level in the United States? We'll come on back and talk about that in just a moment. First, let's head on over to Mitch Kelly and the KDON, One Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center. 7:50 at News Talk 720 KDWN. Coming up in a few moments, live Las Vegas with Chad Forrester and Dave Carney. Sean Hannity, of course, at noon every day now here at News Talk 720 KDWN. We've put together an Interfaith Forum, and I appreciate Elliot Karp, President and CEO of Jewish Federation of Las Vegas, having helped greatly in putting this together this morning. We've had Pastor Joseph Tice here, senior pastor of the Southern Hills Baptist Church, Rabbi Yitz Wein, the main rabbi of Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas, Dr. Aslam Abdullah, director of the Islamic Society of Nevada, and Teji Malik, the spokesperson for the Sikh community, as well as Elliot Karp joining me. So I appreciate it very, very much. I've got to ask you this all real quick. I want to go right across the board on this one. We're all aware of the attacks that occurred recently in France and over the past year or two in various parts of Europe, as well as in Israel, big time. So-called lone wolves have carried out attacks here in the U.S. Can larger attacks, such as the most recent one in France, happen here in the U.S., Rabbi Wein?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it's extremely naive to think that any part of the world is safe from this kind of particular violence. I think, and I think what makes it worse is that it's done in the name of God, of their God. We know as Jews and Christians, we believe strongly in the Ten Commandments. The third commandment of the Ten Commandments is do not take the Lord your God's name in vain, which in essence means not God darn it, because this is the only commandment that God says, I don't forgive. And he doesn't say that about murder. And certainly murder seems to be worse than saying, God darn it. So what it truly means is saying God is doing something heinous in the name of the Almighty, representing God while standing up and doing something that is utterly evil. And you have these people, that's what they're doing it. And religion has no political boundaries. Of course, it could happen here.
Dr. Aslam Abdullah.
I mean, it's not new in our country. We have the lynching of blacks in this country. We have beheading of witches in this country in the name of God. So human beings are capable of committing any kind of error. It is the responsibility of the spiritual authorities and the spiritual leadership to stand against all those things. And if Jews, Muslims, and Christians, and the Sikhs and Hindus come together, it would not happen in this country.
Teji Malik?
Well, my situation is totally unique because I am the victim of something that has nothing to do with me or my faith, and most of the culprits are Christians, white Christians. So this is because of the lack of ignorance, lack of knowledge, and lack of understanding. We are all, their slurs, their hate crimes are more against the Sikhs in the United States than against any other religion.
So the answer is yes, it could happen on a large scale here, as has happened in France and other parts of the world. Pastor Joseph Tice.
I
same
don't
question.
agree with that. I don't think so.
You
It'll
don't
happen.
think
No. See, if we all get together actively and have debates once a month with other religions, we can decide it here. We can see education is the best way.
So you're saying it will not happen here?
If we try our best not to happen, it's our duty.
It's our duty. All right, the pastor, please answer the same question.
The answer is absolutely yes. The terrorism that is happening today in the world is happening in the name of Allah. And yes, it's happening, and it can happen, and likely will happen here in this valley.
Elliot Karp, same question to you.
Well, I definitely think it can happen. I think that we have to be concerned. We have to be constantly on our guard to ensure, as my colleagues have suggested, that through education and awareness that it doesn't happen, but that there is this rising tide that needs to be addressed around the world, and that when leaders, spiritual leaders and political leaders stand up and ask for and demand of our followers, of our congregants and our community members and our citizens that open discourse is legitimate and can take place, but that it must be civil and with respect, and that we have a responsibility to care for one another and to be on the lookout for one another, then hopefully we can avoid it. But these are powerful, powerful forces in the world that we are confronting and must continue to confront.
All right, what we're going to do is pick up on the idea of what we talked about here a little while ago, and that is, and I'll take the responsibility to put it together, that we do get together. I would like to get out at UNLV. This is not Davis and this is not Irvine, but this is UNLV. And as you said, Dr. Abdullah, it's not happening here at this point, thank God. So what we'll do is try and make sure it never happens here by getting all of you out to the UNLV. We'll get a forum together, and we will specifically invite all of the religions, not only the Jewish students and the Muslim students and the Sikhs and the Christians, but those interested. I want to make a big, huge point of trying to bring out the Muslims and Jewish students who have had a problem communicating with each other more at this point in this day in history, right now where we're at, and when you look at California and elsewhere, it's the Jews and the Jewish students and the Muslim students, and I want to be able to get those students communicating with each other. So Rabbi Wine and to Dr. Aslam Abdullah, as well as to Pastor Joseph Tice and Teji Malik, I'll get you all out there to be able to address them and let them talk about it. And let's do it in a civil manner because that's the only way we're going to be able to resolve this.
And we should have this forum more often, at least once a month, because, see, you have to do something regularly for people. It's difficult to change people's mind.
I think you've got good intentions, and we may be able to do that. Right now, I'm trying to put one foot in front of the other, and I understand about once a month, but I'd like to get one of these forums going, and if we can get one going and it's a success, maybe we can get a second one going, and eventually we learn how to walk. Maybe we can start running eventually.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about your particular one. I'm talking about us as a religious people.
I agree with you.
We have to have, if Alan Stark can make it, it's wonderful. If he can't make it, then we as the religious people have to have our proactive things rather than reactive attitude.
Elliot?
I think Teji's absolutely right, and I think it starts here, Alan. I applaud you for bringing these religious leaders and for the station's support of this. This is exactly what needs to happen. We need to start the conversation and the dialogue in the community, and this was a great place to start.
We're going to take this particular show, and it's going to be up on the next day or so. It'll be up on YouTube. And we'll be putting it everywhere on the KDON site, my alanstock.com, and everywhere. Rabbi, you want to put it in yours? All of you want to put it in your sites and let people know about this. Elliot from the Federation to put it on the site and let people know about it. And we'll try to have it start right here and carry it forward. I do want to thank King Solomon's Treasures, 3655 South Durango, for sponsoring this very special forum. He stepped forward and he said, we will do it, and they did do it. It's a great jewelry store with a touch of class, but also classy because they were here sponsoring this. Real quick.
One last point. There's a religious parliament in Salt Lake City on October 14 to 16, and we from the Sikh community are planning to serve 8 to 10,000 meals to everybody there. We did that in Barcelona 5 years ago, where there was 5,000. Now we are planning to have 50,000 meals for 5 days.
I salute your efforts, and if everyone did positive things like this, what we call acts of tzedakah, if people did these things, it would be a much, much, much better world. So I appreciate you all being here, and I hope that this was the beginning of changing some people's minds for the better. And again, to Elliot Karp, I want to thank you very much for having gotten this whole thing started. Tomorrow, Brian and Valerie Wilson join me talking about adoptions by people who hold CCWs or own guns. There's legislation that's right now before the state legislature to address that particular issue. Tomorrow's Animal Rescue Day. And, of course, Tech News with Kevin Richards. Coming up in a few moments, live Las Vegas with Chad Forrester and Dave Carney. I'm Alan Stock. Have a great day. Drive carefully and always keep on thinking free.